name is Charlotte. I'm going to be here to instruct today so that we can learn how to make some bubble tea together. Now, you guys are my early birds, so I just want everyone to start by preparing some stuff that we need for the class. So if you can see my slide up here, we have a couple of bits of information. I'm going to repeat this a lot of times, so you guys will have the pleasure of hearing it quite a number of times. But all you have to do is make sure that you have some water boiling. You'll also need to have a smaller container of water boiling. So there'll be two containers, one in a big pot, one in a small kettle. One is for cooking our pearls and one is for brewing our tea. So you do need two separate containers. Now you'll also find that there is something inside of that kit that is mysteriously unlike bubble tea. If you want to open that up, that would be your featured snack. You can go ahead and munch on that. I've seen all kinds of tasty things in there recently. So whatever you think is not involved in bubble tea, you're probably right, and you can have a little snack there. Yeah, me too, Stacy. Stacy says, super excited to make bubble tea. I know, me too. I would love to know where you guys are calling in from. If you are in my chat box, I would love to know. So you can let me know by just typing into the chat box. Tell me where you're calling in from. For me personally, I'm calling in from Long Island right now. We're expecting a mysterious storm in a little while. I think it's going to be pretty rainy in a bit. So I see some wind blowing in. So hopefully we won't have too many crazy weather conditions and just be some rain. All right, Minnesota, you have a blizzard. Yeah, maybe I'm getting a little bit of your storm system. Who knows? Fort Worth, Texas, excellent. Hopefully a bit warmer than here. We're kind of beginning to see some spring starting, but it's very slow going. So I just want to reiterate to everybody, my name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your instructor for today. We are going to be making some delicious bubble tea together. Now, there's a few little things that are important to start now. I want you guys to prepare some boiling water. Now, this, of course, is if you're following along with our bubble tea. If you'd like to make some tapioca pearls with me, then you're going to need 6 cups of boiling water. Now, if you'd like to brew some tea with me, you're also going to need 1.5 cups of boiling water in a small kettle. So there's 2 containers of boiling water on your stove right now. I have mine ready. So if you are following along with me, you are going to need those 2 containers of boiling water. Now you'll also need to open up that little snack of yours. There should be something delicious inside of your kit if you'd like to open that up and crunch on it. And now this other instruction here, prepare 3/4 cup of cold water. This is just if you wanted to get a head start. So it's up to you, but if you want that head start, you can go ahead and prepare that water, put it in the fridge until we need it in a little bit. Now there also are some various things that you'll need from around your kitchen. If you just want to make sure that you are in or near your kitchen, that usually will save you some trips. However, if you are not, you can always grab this little list here. We'll just need some stuff like spoons and bowls and things like that. So kitchen stuff. Now we're probably going to get started in about a minute and a half. And so I'm just going to kind of reiterate the instructions that I've named here already. But I know we have some people calling in from all over the place. And so thank you all so much for being here with us. We are so happy to see you all. We're humbled by your attendance. It's so great to just kind of be able to have these crafter community events with people like you. So we're really excited to get started with some bubble tea. And we will be getting started in about a minute. So why don't we just hang tight? I'm hearing that there's some blizzards. I was just saying that I'm going to get some rain, and I think I see a couple of drops on my windows now. But there's also an area of sunshine, so I think the weather's a little confused. So we'll see what happens throughout the next 45 minutes or so that we're together. So I'm going to say this one last time. If you haven't already, we do want to make sure that we have some water boiling. So my name is Charlotte. I'm going to be your instructor for today. We're going to be making some bubble tea. And if you're going to be making bubble tea along with me, you will definitely need some boiling water. Now, number 1, you're going to need 6 cups of water in a big pot on the stove to boil. Now, that is going to be where we cook our tapioca pearls. Now, you will also need a separate container, so a second container of boiling water that will have about 1.5 cups of water in it, and this will be for brewing our tea throughout the class. So you do need 2 containers of boiling water. Now, if you want to get a really crazy head start, you can also grab 3/4 cup cold water, and of course, at any moment, you are welcome to enjoy the featured snack that is inside of your kit. Really could be anything. If you'd like to let me know what you got in the chat box, I would love to know. I've been seeing Starburst and Sour Patch Kids recently, so do tell. Now you'll also need a whole bunch of stuff from your kitchen, and we will go through all of that together. But why don't we get started? So the very first thing we're going to do is just look at a really brief presentation just to kind of know where we're headed. We're going to talk about what's on the menu, and then we're really just going to hit the ground running and get into some bubble tea. So to begin, we're going to look at our first slide here. So here we have our experience. Now, this is just a little bit of what we're going to cover today during our live demonstration. Now, the first thing that we're going to do are some tapioca pearls. Now, those take about 25 minutes to cook. It's as simple as cooking pasta, and so it will be very, very easy. But we're going to get those in the water first thing so that they have enough time to be completed. Now, we're also going to be making a layered passion fruit jelly tea. Now, this is caffeine free. It's really light and refreshing, and it kind of follows a less traditional preparation of bubble tea. So it's going to be really, really nice to make that whilst we are waiting for our tapioca pearls to finish cooking. Now, when they are finished cooking, we'll be able to prepare our second and final drink for the day, which is going to be our mint taro milk tea. Now, this is also caffeine free, and this will have our tapioca pearls in it. So we're going to show kind of a wide spectrum of bubble tea in flavors and also just kind of in styles of preparation. So it's going to be really fun. Now, there's also a bonus drink. If you received one of our kits today, there are also the materials to make a matcha brown sugar drink. This one does have caffeine, and it'll be perfect for in the morning, especially with your leftover tapioca pearls. So we will give you all of the information on how to prepare that recipe later on in the class. So that's just a little bonus drink from us to you. Okay, so that's all that we have for today. And we are going to be getting started. Now, to my question in the chat box, we will be sending the recording of the call, yes. And you also will have lots of information about how you can proceed and what we did today. So you will definitely have lots and lots of info in that email afterward. So thank you so much for that question. All right, so let's get started, everybody. The first thing that we need to do are talk about our tapioca pearls. So here I have my little workspace. Now what I want you guys to do to begin is locate your tapioca pearls, okay? So they should look like this. They're in a nice little vacuum sealed package. Now these are going to be cooking in our boiling water. Now you should have that water on the stove to boil, and hopefully it's pretty bubbly. A lid on the pot is a good idea to keep that heat in there, and the heat should be on high. Now while we wait one more moment for it to boil, I'm just going to help you to prep your tapioca pearls. So first things first, you have them in this package. We vacuum sealed them and we portioned them out for you because they're very, very fragile right now. So go ahead and grab a scissor. We're going to cut them open. And you're only going to need half of them today. So with the other half, you can put them into an airtight container, but we're only going to be preparing half of the package today, and that's about half a cup of tapioca pearls. So if you did want to measure them, you could, but either way, you can eyeball it, and you should just use half of the package. So once you have half of the package, what we're going to do is actually strain them. Now I'm going to be showing you guys a couple of little steps here so that we can avoid the boba blob, the dreaded stuck together boba blob that we don't want to have. So one of the ways that we're going to avoid that happening is by straining out the dry pearls. So what we're doing here is we're separating out any additional starchy powder that would have formed between these nice little dough balls that we have in here. So these are dehydrated balls of dough, and they're going to come right back to life in our boiling water, but there's some additional powder around them to keep them separate, and this is tapioca starch. Tapioca starch gets really, really sticky as soon as it gets wet, and so we want to separate out anything that is just kind of stuck to the dough balls themselves and is not actually a dough ball. Does that make sense? So we have some little bits of powder inside of my bowl. You can barely even see. This is really a preventative step just to make sure that we have some nice loose individual pearls inside of our pot. And once we have them good and strained, we're going to be adding them over to our pot. So that's our next step. So what I'm going to say is that if you are following along with me, it's really important that your water be boily and bubbly when you do add the pearls to it. Now, the reason why we say this is because they're going to be the best suspended by boiling water, which will again help them to not be a boba blob. So as long as you wait until your water is boiled and then you can add them in, you will be just fine. So what I think we should do, we should head over to our pots, and then we are going to add them to the water now. So as long as it's nice and boily bubbly, you can remove that lid from the pot, and then we're going to add in all of the pearls that we have strained. So remember, that was just half the package. We're just going to make half now. You can make the other half another time, but for today, we're going to be making half, so you guys have some bonus pearls for later. Now we are going to be adding them to the water, and once they get in there, I want you to grab a spoon and you're going to gently stir them. Now, I keep saying gentle, careful, because they are very fragile right now. They're kind of powdery. They're just sort of a compacted little ball of dust. So we want to make sure that we keep them nice and separate from each other. And we also want to make sure that we don't break them. So you're going to stir them for at least a minute here. You want to scrape along the bottom of the pot, along the sides of the pot. Just really gently, slowly give them a thorough stir for a good minute. I know that might sound excessive, but a whole minute is important here. So you want to make sure that you give them a nice stir just to make sure that all of them are individually coated in boiling water and that they are all separate from each other and they're ready to go. So once you feel like you have succeeded and they are nice and separate from each other, everybody's dancing around independently in the boiling water, you can put that lid back on your pot and you can leave the heat on high and then come back over here so that we can get started with our first drink. Now, the tapioca pearls need about 25 minutes in that boiling water, and they're actually pretty independent during this process. I know I always want to stir stuff while I'm cooking. We actually don't want to stir them. We're going to leave them in the water for now, and we'll check on them in about 10 or 15 minutes just to make sure everything is going well, and then we will just kind of finish up our cooking. So they're actually going to be just fine over there in the water on their own, and while they are cooking, we're going to be preparing our first drink. Now, our first drink is going to be that layered fruit jelly tea. It's really, really delicious. It has a nice, beautiful passion fruit flavor. It's wonderfully layered. It's very colorful. It's really, really fun. It's so refreshing. And so we're going to get started with that now. Now, the first thing we're going to do is talk about what's going to be in that drink. So here I have my favorite part, which is going to be our rainbow jellies. So you should find the rainbow jellies from inside of your kit. These are crucial. This is going to be our bubble tea topping that's going to be inside of this drink. Now, we might be more familiar with tapioca pearls and bubble tea, but there's tons of stuff that you can get in there, not only fruit jellies, but grass jellies, puddings, all kinds of things like that. So we're going to be featuring fruit jellies in our first drink. So we have those right here. Now you also should grab your passion fruit syrup. Now this is going to be in a similar bottle. It's kind of a yellowish syrup. This is going to be the basis of our flavor profile for today. It's going to be really light and fruity. And you're also going to need some blue tea. Now you cannot miss this. This is a lovely blue packet of tea that's inside of your kit. And surprise, the tea itself is going to be a very similar color. So we're going to be using that. So this is really the basis of our drink. We're also going to need some stuff from around your kitchen, and so we'll go through those things as we get there. But to begin, why don't we start by measuring out 3/4 of a cup of nice cold water into a measuring cup. Okay, so I'm going to go grab mine. I'm going to grab a measuring cup and 3/4 of a cup of cold water. Okay, so this is that head start that I mentioned earlier. I already have mine measured out, but you should just have some cold water in here. As long as it is both cold and water, you are in the right spot. And so once you've got that measured, all you have to do is add it to a mixing vessel. Now that might sound a little confusing. You're like, what the heck is a mixing vessel? Really, this is anything that is not the glass you're going to drink this drink out of. So this could be another glass. It could be a jar if you're like me. It could be a Tupperware. It could be a bowl. It could be a solo cup. It could be anything as long as it is not the glass that you want to drink this drink out of. Now, the reason why we're going to be using a mixing vessel here is because we're going to be mixing a couple of different mixtures, because we're going to be layering them together inside of our drink once we're ready to go inside of our drinking glass. So we're going to be making a layered drink, which means that we're going to have a few different containers, and then we're going to be consolidating them all in a beautiful arrangement in the end. So that's why we have a mixing vessel. Now, once you have the water inside of this mixing vessel, that was 3/4 of a cup of cold water, we're going to set it off to the side. Now, because of this layering technique, you're going to notice that setting things off to the side is kind of a little trend here. We're going to be doing that a lot so that we can prepare all of those separate mixtures. So the next thing that we're going to work on is we're going to brew our tea. So I want you guys to grab your blue tea. We're going to open up that packet. And we're actually going to be brewing this blue tea right inside of our measuring cup. So this is why we measured out our water first, because it freed up our measuring cup so that we can brew our tea right on in here. Another little trick about layering drinks is that it is much easier to do if you have something with a spout. And so that's why we like to use our measuring cup. It also saves us a dish, which is never a bad thing. So what we need is half a cup of boiling water right inside of this measuring cup. Now, half a cup of boiling water is going to come from that separate container of boiling water that's on our stove right now. So we have our tapioca pearls cooking away inside of a big pot, and you should also have a smaller container that had like 1.5 cups of boiling water, maybe 2 cups, and that was for brewing our tea. So that's where this is going to come in handy. We just need half a cup of boiling water right now, and we're going to use that to make our blue tea. Okay, so I have my nice orange kettle, and I'm just going to be doing half a cup. Perfect. Once you've got half a cup of blue tea, you can start to steep your tea bag. And as soon as you do, you're going to start to notice how beautiful this color is. Now, I'm just going to take a second here to let you know that there's no food coloring in here at all. This is a natural pigment that occurs in a butterfly pea flower. It's a little shrub native to Southeast Asia. It's covered in these little purpley blue flowers. And so they're really great to make tea out of. They have a really nice herbal quality, kind of like a jasmine or a chamomile. But the most fun part about it is definitely the color. So it's really mild in flavor, kind of earthy, but it is not mild in color whatsoever. It's this beautiful blue color, and it's also very sensitive to pH, and so it does kind of change its shade of blue depending on the pH of the things that you add to it. So if you add something really acidic, it kind of turns green, and if you add something really more alkaline, it kind of turns almost like this bluey color, something a little bit more like sky blue, and actually acid makes it a little more pink. So it kind of depends. You can play around with this quite a bit. So it's a really fun thing. If you want to brew extra, you'll have a little science experiment. But for today, we just need half a cup of boiling water right inside of that measuring cup. So once you've got that, guess what? We're going to set it off to the side. Our tea needs about 5 minutes to steep to give us all of that antioxidant power. And so we're just going to give that some time on the side by himself. And in the meantime, we're going to mix up our juice. So we're going to bring back our mixing vessel. Remember this from the first step. And what we're going to do now is make our flavor base. So we're going to be adding in half of our bottle of passion fruit syrup. So just half the bottle here. We don't need that whole thing. The other half is a gift from us to you. Now, again, you can eyeball this. If you are not an eyeballer, if you really want to measure it, it is 2 tablespoons because the whole bottle is about 4. Okay, so just do your best. Measure out about half the bottle. And you can already smell how good this smells. We find that passion fruit is a really underrepresented flavor over here in the States, and so it's something that we love to highlight. It's so tasty, so unique, and it's one of my favorites. So we're just going to stir this together to build a juice. Okay, now since the water is super cold and that syrup is nice and thick, you definitely want to make sure that you are thorough in your stirring so that everything is all combined. But here we have some lovely passion fruit juice. I can smell it. It smells so good and so fresh. So we're going to be enjoying this in a moment. I feel like my tummy is grumbling already though. But we are going to try and be patient because we have to assemble our third layer. So we're going to set this off to the side. I know, big shock. And we're finally going to just prepare our third and final layer. So now I want you to grab the glass that you are going to drink this drink out of. So this is not a mysterious mixing vessel. This is the glass that we want to drink our drink out of. And what you're going to do now is just add in your rainbow jellies. Now, the most fun part about making bubble tea and anything at home is that you really get to customize it to your own tastes. So at this point, if you would like, you can use that strainer from before to strain out the liquid of these rainbow jellies. There's just a little bit of liquid in there. See that? Now that is just a bit of sugar syrup. So it keeps our jellies nice and moist and flavorful. And if you did want to strain them, you certainly could. However, if you're not worried about the sweetness, if you've got a whole mouth of sweet teeth just like me, then you can go ahead and add in everything from that contents of the bottle, and you will have some lovely rainbow jellies down there. So here I have my rainbow jellies. They are a really nice fruity addition to this drink. I think it kind of brings me to a warm weather place, which I think is wishful thinking right now, but I'm very happy to be there. So it kind of reminds me of being on a beach. And so rainbow jellies are a lighter alternative to tapioca pearls that go very, very well in lighter versions of bubble tea, like our fruit tea that we're going to have today. So once you have those jellies in there, then you are pretty much good to go. That's kind of going to be the prep for our first drink here. So I'm just going to review for a moment. Now, number one, we have our drinking glass with all of our rainbow jellies in it. So those are just kind of hanging out at the bottom of my glass here. And this is the glass that we're going to be drinking this drink out of. So that's number one. Number two, we have our measuring cup, and this has about half a cup of boiling water in it. I can feel it's still warm to the touch, and it also has our blue tea bag in there. So that's why we have this beautiful purple tea. So we're going to have that as step number two. Now, step number three, we want to make sure that we have our fabulous passion fruit juice. Now, this is 3/4 of a cup of cold water with about half of our bottle of passion fruit syrup mixed together to make this lovely yellow juice that we have here. So these three things, check, 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 are going to be our components that we need for our very first drink. So we're very close to having a lovely taste here. But believe it or not, I'm going to put a pin in this process because I think it's time to go check on our tapioca pearls. So if you're following along with me at home, it's been about 10-15 minutes since we put those tapioca pearls into the water. It has been exactly 11, if you must know. And so now I think is a perfect time for a tapioca check. So why don't we just wander over to our stoves? So if you're following along with me, I want you to just remove the lid from your pot and gently stir those pearls once more. Now at this point, we're just kind of doing like a halfway point check. We want to make sure that they are loosened from each other and from the bottom and sides of the pot. So again, we're avoiding a boba blob by just kind of checking in on them halfway through. So we're going to take our spoons, we're going to make sure that you make contact with the bottom of the pot, and we're going to stir them really gently. Now you may also notice that a couple are sticking together here and there, so you're just going to want to press those up against the side wall of the pot with the back of your spoon, and that's going to be a great way to make sure that you kind of separate them a little bit. So that's what we're doing now. We're making sure that they are separate. And just to give you guys some visual cues of what they should look like inside that pot, if you're cooking them along with me, all you need to do is make sure that they look like Cocoa Puffs. I know it sounds kind of silly, but it's really important that they look very dark, kind of even, very spherical, and that they also smell super good. So the visual cue that you are looking for is Cocoa Puffs. If they look like boiling Cocoa Puffs, then you're on the right track. Now they should also smell really sweet. The water might be a little bit darker at this point. It might also be a little bit thicker, a little bit more viscous, and that's okay. That just means that the starch is doing its job. So all of those things mean that you are doing a very, very good tapioca job. So if you have all of those boxes checked off, then we are good to move back to our other drink. As far as those tapioca pearls are concerned, they do have 13 minutes left. And so what I want you to do is to just leave the lid off for the remainder of the cooking and just keep the heat on high. Now that's going to be a really nice independent cook, just like our first time. So we will check back on them once they're completed. And so you just want to leave them for now, just kind of to their own business to finish up cooking on their own. Now, if you find that the water level is depleting in any way, just make sure that you add in boiling water. This might not happen to you. This is really just if your stove is very, very powerful. But if it is and you notice the water level going down, just add in some boiling water so that you don't disturb the cooking process. Okay, so that is our tapioca pearls. Now, if you have any questions about that, please feel free to put them into the chat box. We have tons of Foodcraft supporters that can help you with your questions. And of course, I'm here too. But in the meantime, why don't we get back to our very first drink because I'm feeling thirsty and we are so close to being done. So I'm going to pan down my camera. Ta-da! So remember this, here we have our very first drink. We're so, so close to finishing it. So all we have to do now is layer all of our components together. So why don't we start by removing our tea bag from our blue tea, if you haven't done so already. I'm going to use my spoon. Now we don't need this tea bag anymore, so you don't need to save it for any reason. I'm just going to set mine off to the side here. And we're going to be adding in some ice and our juice first. So the reason why we're putting our juice on the bottom is because it's a denser liquid. It's going to be way more likely to stay on the bottom of the drink. And it also is a colder liquid, which makes for a more dense arrangement of molecules. So all the molecules are kind of sticking together like this because it's very, very cold. And so what that means is that we're going to get a lot closer to having a very solid foundation on the bottom than we would if we tried to put the hot tea on the bottom, where all the molecules are loosey-goosey and there's lots of room between them. So if you want to have a nice solid foundation when layering a drink, you definitely want to put the cold liquid on the bottom. So that's why it's nice to have two different temperatures. But to help that even more, we're going to ice this drink. So I want you to grab a handful of ice cubes and we're going to put them right on top of our rainbow jellies. Now you do want to put them all the way up to the very tippy top of the glass. I know that sounds a little crazy, especially if you're not an ice person. I am an ice person, but either way, I think it's really important to fill up your glass with ice because we want to have as much in there as possible to make sure that our bottom layer is super duper solid so that our layer works out beautifully, so that things stay nice and separate. So let's go ahead and grab a big handful of ice. Okay, so we have so much ice inside of this glass now. I got my rainbow jellies on the bottom. And so what we're gonna do is add in our passion fruit juice. Now the amount that we use here is gonna depend on how much room you have inside of your glass, so how big your glass is. But the most important thing is that you leave about an inch of room at the top for the tea. So you might have some left over, you may not, but what matters is that you leave about an inch at the very tippy top for your tea, okay? So I almost completely used mine. Maybe I could fit that in, but I love the blue tea and I really want to balance out those flavors. So I'm going to leave a nice inch at the top. Now with this, you can just set this off to the side. That's a little treat for you for later. And now we just need to layer our blue tea right on top of our passion fruit juice. So to begin, I'm going to just kind of level out the top here. I want to make sure that all of my ice cubes are down and inside of my passion fruit juice so that I have that nice solid foundation. And I'm going to show you guys two ways to layer the drink. So the first way is the very simple way, and this is going to be to just grab spoonfuls of tea. Now you can see I've got a little spoon and some blue tea right in there. And so what I'm going to do is line up the tip of the spoon with the side wall of the glass, and I'm just going to let it kind of fall down. Just fall down the side. And so there are a couple of things that I want you guys to notice as I'm doing this, because we're just going to repetitively grab some spoonfuls of tea and just gently let it trickle down the side like this. So number one, the most fun part is the thing I'm going to get out of the way right away, which is the fact that the tea inside of the glass is a lot purpler than it is inside of my measuring cup. So in my measuring cup, it's very, very blue. And once it kind of gets into the passion fruit juice, it mixes around with that slightly acidic passion fruit juice base, and it becomes just a little bit more red toned. Now, there's not a huge difference because the passion fruit juice is not very acidic, but if you were to be putting this into lime juice, it would turn almost reddish pink. So that's kind of a fun thing to point out here, is that the color is definitely a little bit different. Now, another thing I want to point out is that as you add this in, it kind of builds a more and more strong layer. So that very first spoonful that you add, it kind of determines how well this is going to go. Now, if things mix together, I promise it's okay. It'll still be beautiful, even if it's purple. But it is kind of nice to have it be layered. Now, what I will say is that you can kind of note that the blue tea does sink down into the glass, and then it kind of hooks this very dramatic U-turn and comes right back up to the top. So again, that's just showing us that we have a nice cold, solid foundation underneath, and the blue tea that is still very warm and not very dense is going to rise right back up to the top for us. So that's why that's working. Now, the next way I want to show you is a little bit cooler looking, but it's a little bit trickier. It can be a little bit messier, so just be careful. Now, what you're going to do is take that very same spoon, and you can actually turn it upside down so that the curved part is facing your ceiling. And then you're going to line up the tip of the spoon with the side wall of the glass one more time, and we're just going to pour this over the back. So this definitely looks a little bit more impressive if you want to, wow your friends, but it can be potentially messy. So just be careful. But however you got it in there, I hope that you were able to make a layer because it is a very, very beautiful drink. And so if you guys would like, now would be a great time to take a picture. If you wanted to take some photos on your own, we would love to see them. We'll drop our social media links into the chat box throughout the class. But if you would like to take those pictures, this is such a beautiful photo opportunity because look at this thing. It's like a sunset. So it's a really nice little skill that we were able to share with you all. You can layer all kinds of things. You can think about maybe summertime drinks if you had lemonade on the bottom and some black tea on top. That sounds lovely. So remember all of my little tips and tricks about making the bottom cold and dense and the top a lot more warm and less dense. So honestly, lemonade and iced tea work perfectly. So this is our lovely drink. Now, once you are done taking pictures of it, because the layer is really the photo opportunity, what you're going to do is grab your bubble tea straw and we're going to stir it together. I know it sounds crazy. Like, what was all that work for? It was for the pictures. It's such a beautiful drink the way that it looks. And so we like to kind of feature the technique of layering it. And we also think it's fun to expand on bubble tea. Bubble tea is something that we know very, very well, but it's kind of fun to show the kind of range of it. So the different things that it can do. It doesn't just have to be a milk tea, right? So we're giving it a stir. And then, of course, we're going to take a sip. Oh my goodness. Make sure you get the jellies off the bottom, as they are the best part. If I could have this in the ratio of cereal, I would do so. I would just love to eat this like a big bowl of fruit jelly soup. So I think it's delicious. It tastes really, really beautiful. It's so fruity and so refreshing. I love that it's so cold right now on my palate. It just feels really, really nice. And it's also just so delicious and fruity. Now, what I will say is that it can be a tad sweet. Again, I have the sweetest tooth in America, so I really don't mind that at all. But if you are finding that it's a little bit sweet, we did think of you. We have this little packet of citrus lime powder. Now, this is going to pack a real punch. If you just want to kind of put a couple of little crystals into your drink, this is a really good way to temper the sweetness. Now, if you accidentally tip the entire packet in, it's still going to be really delicious. It'll just taste more like a limeade. It'll kind of blow out that passion fruit flavor, but it'll still be really yummy. So this is if you just kind of want to balance the flavor a little bit more. However, what I like to do is drink half of it in one way and then add a couple of crystals and drink the other half, just because I like the variety of it. I think it's kind of fun to play with the recipe as you go. So that was our first drink, everybody. I hope that you all enjoyed it. Again, we're showing a little bit of range with bubble tea. We're flexing some skills, some techniques a little bit, but actually our second drink is going to be a lot more traditional. It's going to follow a very traditional preparation of bubble tea out in a boba shop, the kind that we know and love. And so we are going to be making our mint taro milk tea together in just a moment. Now we have about 3 minutes until our tapioca pearls are done. And so what we're going to do in the meantime is just gather up our materials for that second drink. So remember, we're going to be putting our chewy tapioca pearls freshly cooked inside of that drink, and it's going to be spectacular, but some stuff that I want you guys to gather. So number one is that we are going to be using our measuring cup again. Now you can definitely get away with using the same one. Again, we're going to save the dish. If you just want to take a moment, if you have any extra blue tea in yours, which I definitely do, I'm going to be adding mine into my mixing vessel. Again, this is just a snack for later. However, if you would like to rinse out your measuring cup or anything like that, now would be a great time to do it. Another thing is that for this drink, you're going to need to locate some stuff from inside of your kit. So number one is going to be our Moroccan mint tea. You're going to want to grab your mint tea bag, of course, and you're also going to need your taro mix. Now that's going to be the mixture that looks like this. It has a purple powder inside. So these are the two things that we're going to need for our drink. It's going to be very, very simple, and it's going to have a very familiar flavor, that lovely taro purple milk tea, but with a nice little spin on it that's going to be this great minty flavor. It's a Foodcraft original, and honestly, it's what I get from the boba shops when I go now. I ask for them to make my taro with mint tea because it's just the most beautiful combination. Now, you'll need a couple of things from around your home. You're definitely going to need a small whisk or a fork, and you will also need your next drinking glass. And then for our tapioca pearls, you'll need a bowl, a spoon, and a strainer. So you definitely want to grab that stuff now, just while we kind of finish out the cooking. So while you guys are grabbing those things, if you're following along with me, that's just some stuff that you'd like to gather up. I'm going to tell you a little bit about our tapioca pearls. So they are nearly done cooking. We have 1.5 minutes left, so we're so close. It should be smelling real sweet inside your home. But what we're going to do is a couple of little steps to make sure that they are perfect. So again, we're avoiding the boba blob. So what I want you guys to do once our timer is up, we are going to be straining them. So that's why we've grabbed a nice big colander to put into the sink. This would be like one that you would strain pasta through. And so you want to grab that colander so that you can strain all of those tapioca pearls and catch them inside of the strainer. Now the water is perfectly safe to go down the sink, so don't worry about that. We just need the pearls. And once you have them inside that colander, you're going to be rinsing them with cold water right from your tap. So what you can do is just turn on the tap, make sure that it's running really nice and cold, and then you're very thoroughly going to rinse all of the pearls. You might want to grab the strainer and shake it around a little bit just to make sure that you get all of the ones off the bottom onto the top, because what we're doing is stopping the cooking. We're also going to tighten up that texture, make sure that it's really nice and chewy, and we're also going to be rinsing off additional starch to make sure that they don't stick to each other. So remember, no boba blob. So those are the steps that we're going to take. And in fact, our timer is about 20 seconds away from done. And so I think that we are perfectly ready to go over to our stove and turn off the heat and then strain the pearls. So I'm going to reiterate what we're going to do here once you have your pearls ready to go. So we are going to go over to our stove. We're going to turn off the heat and we're going to strain them. So you're going to be pouring them through a nice little strainer in your sink. Now you want to catch every last one of them. And once you have caught all of those pearls inside of your strainer, you're going to give them a very thorough rinse with some cold water. Now I like to use the water right out of my tap. And in fact, on my sink, I have one of those little switches, so it kind of looks like a shower. So this gets everybody, right? You just want to make sure that you have all of those pearls really, really nicely rinsed in that cold water. So it's very important to get all of them because we're going to be doing 3 things here. Number 1, we are rinsing off additional starch to make sure that they are as not sticky as possible, but you will find that they're still pretty sticky. It's just kind of who they are, but we don't want them to be sticking together too much. So that's why we rinse off additional starch. Now, another thing we're looking for is that we're going to be stopping the cooking. So as long as they stay hot, they have the potential to get softer. We don't want that to happen. We want them to be really nice and chewy and bouncy, like the tapioca pearls we know and love. And so what you're doing is making sure that the cooking is just stopped in its tracks by cooling down the temperature rapidly. Now, in doing so, you're also preserving the texture, and in fact, you're tightening it quite a bit. This is called blanching. So we're just going to be adding a little bit of water right onto there just to rinse them. And then once they are nicely rinsed, you can give them a little taste. And when you do, you might be like, wait a minute, these don't taste like I thought they would. And that's because they are very, very bland in their natural state. They're kind of very mild in their flavor. And a lot of people don't expect them to be because we think that they're going to be so sweet. But there is a little bit of sugar in that dough. However, it's mostly cassava starch, which itself has a very mild flavor. And so once you've gone through all of those steps, the way we're going to make them taste just like the tapioca pearls that we know and love is by putting them into a small bowl and adding in some of our brown sugar syrup. So this is our next step, everybody. So we should have some brown sugar syrup like this from inside of your kit. Now this is delicious. This is house made. It's so yummy. I want it on pancakes and ice cream and all kinds of stuff. But what you're going to do is add about 1/3 of your bottle into your tapioca pearls. So just about 1/3. Now you will have lots of extra of this. So you'll have 2/3 of the bottle that you can use for your future. Now that's going to be to make that matcha brown sugar bonus drink. That could also be for pancakes in the morning. I don't know. But it's also going to be to prepare some additional tapioca pearls because you guys do have about half of a packet of uncooked pearls. So this is going to be a little gift from us to you. Please use all of it in every way you can think of. But there are a lot of little bubble tea things that you can do with this in the future with those extra pearls and with your brown sugar milk tea. So that's what we're going to be doing. We're going to add about 1/3 of the bottle of brown sugar syrup into the bowl with your cooked tapioca pearls. And now we're going to witness a miracle because adding something very sticky like brown sugar syrup to these fabulously sticky cooked tapioca pearls is going to make them less sticky. I don't know how it works, but it's going to make them nice and loose so that you can really stir them and use them a lot like you would, or like you would see used at the tapioca shops over in the boba shops, okay? So I have my bowl of done tapioca pearls right here in front of me. So once you have those, we can wrap up here. We're going to be able to make our fabulous drink. So I'm going to pan down my camera. And here in front of me, I have my completed tapioca pearls looking really, really lovely. I can't wait to eat them. Now we also have our taro and our mint tea. So why don't we start by prepping our mint tea? So again, we're gonna grab our wonderful little measuring cup here. And we're gonna just add in our mint tea bag and half a cup of boiling water. Now this one's going to come together really, really quickly. So let's just go grab half a cup boiling water. So this one comes together super fast because again, we're going to be honoring the technique that is used at the boba shop. And what they use at boba shops is called a 3-in-1 drink mix. So we're just going to need to brew a little bit of tea off to the side here. Okay, just 3/4 of a cup. There we go. All right, and once you have 3/4 of a cup of boiling water mixed in with your fabulous little tea bag, we're just gonna kind of zhuzh this around in here just to get some flavor out. But our mint tea is a lot more flavorful than our lovely blue tea was, and so it needs less time to kind of give us the impact of that flavor. So in the meantime, I want you guys to open up your taro mix. Now, this is another thing that I wish I could have on vanilla ice cream. This is one of my favorite things in the world. But as I mentioned already, this is called a 3-in-1 drink mix. So this is a really handy little thing. Now, what this has in it is going to be a nice little mixture of 3 things, as you can imagine. Now, number 1 is going to be our flavor, which in this case is taro. That's the purple stuff. Now, it's also going to have some non-dairy creamer in it so that you can mix it with water and have it be really beautifully creamy. And then the third thing, of course, is some sugar. So once you have your tea kind of just with this little head start, you can kind of just pull the tea bag up to the side here, and then we're going to add in all of our taro powder. Okay, so the entire packet. Ah, it smells so good already. And while this tea is nice and warm, it'll be really nice and easy to just kind of whisk in our powder and it will dissolve for us. So again, this is called a 3-in-1 drink mix. This is what's used over at our favorite boba shops. And so this is going to have that super iconic taro flavor that we're going to be adding with our mint tea because over here at Foodcraft, we just think it's a perfect combination. All right, so I happen to have a little whisk here. If you have a fork, though, that would be fine. A little whisk is a really great tool to have around, but if you don't have one, a fork works great. All right, and once you have that in there, believe it or not, this is our finished drink. The only thing we have to do is bring down the temperature so that we can have it iced. So what I'm going to ask you to do is go grab some ice cubes and just add them into here just to kind of melt them and bring down the temperature of the drink. We've adjusted the recipe so that it won't be watered down. It will be brought into perfect balance. So go ahead and grab a nice handful of ice cubes. Okay, just gonna lob those in there. And now these are meant to melt, so we're just gonna kind of give them a nice little head start because I want to have this drink nice and cold. Now, while we wait for that to get cold, we're just going to bring over our drinking glass. So this is the glass that we are going to be drinking this drink out of. No more mixing vessels. And we're going to be adding in our lovely tapioca pearls. Now, again, this is the fun part of making this at home. You can add in as much or as little as you would like. So I really love tapioca pearls. I want to add all of them in, but I'm going to try and show some self-restraint here. So I'm just going to be adding in a small little spoonful right onto the bottom because I'm about to eat all of my rainbow jellies. So I'm just going to put this right on in there, and we will tell you exactly how you can store those extra pearls, so don't worry about them. And now we just need a lot of ice into our drinking glass. So go ahead and fill up your glass with ice. All right, and once you have this glass nice and filled with ice, it's given us a good head start to bring down the temperature of our lovely mint taro milk tea. So all we have to do now is add it into our drinking glass. This is the fun part. So you see how simple this one was. This is a really great preparation. It's so easy to do, and it really gives us that nice flavor of the bubble tea that we get out in the world. So it's kind of great to be able to make it at home. It feels extra special. So we're just going to add this on into our drinking glass. That beautiful purple taro color. Whoop, right up to the top. All right, beautiful job, everybody. So believe it or not, that is the end of our class here. We have this fabulous mint taro milk tea, which please give it a taste if you're following along with me. I just can't resist. This is one of my favorite flavors in the entire world, so I cannot wait to drink this. As far as mint taro goes, it's like something I wish existed in more forms. I would love to have it as like frozen yogurt or ice cream or something. So we hope that you enjoy our little play on a traditional taro bubble tea. Now, the last thing that you need to know about is just that there's going to be some storage instructions as far as your tapioca pearls are concerned. So if you would like, you can take those cooked pearls and knock them into the freezer. That's a great place for them to hang out until you want to use them again. They actually don't last in the fridge, and so I wouldn't put them there. I would put them in the freezer, and then when you do want to use them again, you just need to gently thaw them and then boil them for about 2 to 3 minutes. So this is going to be really, really simple. Once they are boiled, they'll just come right back to life, and then you can just rinse them under the cold water and add some brown sugar syrup to them, just like we did today. So it's very, very simple, but you don't need to have any of that memorized because I'm going to tell you a little bit about an email in a bit so that you can have some more information about what to expect with the next steps. However, I am going to just kind of start up a little outro here. So we're going to share some slides, and this is just going to have some information about some kind of more crafter community events that we're going to be sharing with all of you. So once we get our slides up, we're going to be able to talk some more about some free workshops that we have going on this year. So we want you guys to save these dates. It was such a great, incredible experience to have you guys come to this one. And so we have a couple more coming up. So your 2025 plans just got a little bit better. We're going to show you guys this lineup now for our free crafter community events. So on my next slide, we have the dates. If you guys would like, you can write them down. You can mark your calendars. On April 2nd, we're going to be making some chili garlic oil. May 7th, we have llama viewings. And then on June 4th, we have piñata making. Now, these are just the nearest ones. We actually have them mapped out for the entire year. And we're so, so happy to see you guys. Yeah, the piñata class is really fun. Thank you, Stacy. Now, if you'd like to go on to our next slide, these are just going to be some things that we're going to highlight for AAPI Heritage Month. If you were not already aware, we are a Filipino-owned business. And so that's something that we love to share with everyone. We have lots of really, really great events that fit right into this category. So we are very excited to be sharing them with all of you. Some really fun stuff and really a wide range of things to do and fun to share. So thank you all so much. The very last thing is that there is going to be an email that will follow this class. It will land in your inbox over the next 24 hours, and it will have some great information in it about Foodcraft. There will be a feedback form. You can also definitely leave us a Google review. And of course, you can join our upcoming crafter community events for some more free workshops like this one. So thank you all so much for being here. We hope that you had a wonderful time. I hope that you enjoyed our little speed round of how to make some beautiful bubble tea. I hope that you have some lovely drinks to be sipping on because I definitely do, and I'm really, really excited about them. So thank you all so much. I look forward to more classes with all of you, and I hope that you have a wonderful rest of your week. Bye, everybody, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye. See you guys next time. See you in the next one. Oh, I'm so glad. Thank you all. Have a good one. Bye-bye.